things people can argue with. If you conduct your cross-examination using this method, you will be able to control the witnesses, and re-emphasize your version of the case. Remember, I'm going to say this again. Cross-examination is you talking. The only words coming from the witness's mouth should be yes, yes, yes. And the other thing that I want you to point out to you, when I made the little analogy to the algebra equation, let me just say this again and point out the opportunity here, if you master this or think about this, is that if everybody does cross-examination poorly, then it doesn't really matter as to who wins, or when the judges watch this, because everybody's equally bad, it just sort of cancels out, like I said. But if you do it well, it could give you the edge that wins. Now it's like, in many times football teams, for those of you who are familiar with football, they don't practice punt returns or kick returns very much. And if you get two teams that don't do it that much, then it doesn't make that much difference. But if you get a team that practices it, then all of a sudden they can bust somebody loose for a touchdown. And it changes the dynamics of the game. This is like that. Cross-examination, it's just a short amount of time. It's not your main case. It's not your main negative case. It's not that big of a deal. And I think that this is something that if people use the lawyer techniques of ask only leading questions, make them always fact-based, so that the answer is only yes or no, repeat main themes, illustrate them different ways with concrete examples, impeach by innuendo, resist the temptation to go for the kill that you'll never get, the ultimate kill. You're not going to get the guy to confess, I don't know why I ever put forth this one AC. You're right, I see the light now, you should win. You're never going to get that, so don't ask for that. You're not going to get that, so don't ask for that. But you impeach them by innuendo. And I think it will give you the edge to win. It'll make the difference. You know, instead of being 4-2 and 3-3, you're going to be 6-0 and, you know, go to the out rounds if you master this. So before, we're going to maybe practice this a little bit, but does anybody have any questions about this? I'm hoping I'm making this clear. Does anybody have any questions about this? Yes?
Do you have any advice when you're being cross-examined? Like when someone's actually bringing that up against you?
That's a very good question. Okay. I would say this. Just flip this, like invert this in your mind if you're being cross-examined. And I would say 80 to 90% of the time you're going to get people that have no idea about any of this. So, Mr. Pugh, isn't your 1AC just really stupid and unworkable? Quibble time! Okay, and you just, well, no, I wouldn't say that. I think that that's unfair because see what, and I would just make them do the little stop, wait, stop, here, doggy, where's the leash? You know, like that. Make them run after you. You know, that sort of thing. I would say quibble to the hilt with every characterization word that they do. Now, if they are kind of onto this, and you think that they really are unfairly characterizing, they're impeaching you by innuendo in a way, I think it's fine for you to say, I know what you're trying to do, and make this sound like it's really expensive, but it's really not. Now, then they have to be at the hold the weasel, they have to know then to counter punch you is to hold the weasel, is to take the weasel, which I think many of them will not. If they know how to impeach by innuendo, it's like you're getting down to this tiny minority that knows how to read command by a technique like holding the weasel. So I wouldn't feel shy about doing that. And then I would notice too, like if you're feeling kind of boxed in, if they were effectively asking a lot of leading questions, if you're just going yes, 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 then start paying attention to the themes that they are developing. Okay, what is their line of attack? because they're probably only going to have like 2 or 3 or 4, and I think that's only about all you're going to have at most of main themes. How are they implementing this? And pay attention to that, so in your later speeches you can explicitly disagree and refute what's being said with them. And I will tell you that if you practice this some, now I mean I don't do that many trials, so I'm not like this skilled Perry Mason, Matlock, Law and Order guy. But I remember once, this was back when Jenna was younger, and there was a guy who had won the, well he was going, that year he ended up winning the, the national debate tournament. He was the #1 guy. And so this is about February, and they got some unskilled person to try to cross-examine him, and then he ran all around the room like a dog off the leash, a puppy off the leash. And I knew like nothing about whatever the topic was. I can't remember now what it was. I knew barely anything about it. I listened to the 1AC, I took a few notes, and all I basically knew was what I had here. And so he was like, I'm not going to be hemmed in by the lawyer man here. And I'm thinking to myself, boy, I hope this works, because, I really don't know much about this. And so I had about 2 themes. I just started asking the questions the way I laid this out. And after about 30 seconds, there were gasps in the audience, because all he was doing was saying, yes, yes, yes. And it was sort of like, now we don't believe in evolution, but it was sort of like the caveman going, fire, fire, and I mean, they were amazed. And I mean, I said, now we have not worked this out that you would just fall into, saying yes to everything that I said. But it is, if you know how to do this, you can be like the people on TV and control people that really want to disagree with you. But you've hemmed them in with your questions. And I will tell you, the vast majority of people you encounter in the debate tournaments will have no idea of how to deal with this. And so even if you're kind of a beginner with this, and just like study this for an hour and practice this before the big tournament, that sort of thing, you will be way more, and just keep these in mind. I can only ask leading questions. They have to be fact-based. I have to impeach by innuendo. I'm not going to go for the kill because I'm not going to get it. All of that, you will be far ahead. Now, I think the trick, and this only comes with practice, is to think, what are the themes? It's too expensive, it's unworkable, and then how do I illustrate that? And you want to, and I don't think I spelled this out here quite so much, but you want to have concrete examples that are fact-based, and just think, because it's sort of like, well, people live in condos, people live in apartments, people live in nursing homes, people live in dorms. See, those are just, okay, this kind of assumes that it's people living in a place where they have land. What are things where people live where they don't have land? And that's all I did, is I just thought of some examples. You might be able to think of some more. And then you just ask them about that. So you understand? And just kind of think through those examples like that. And especially if, when cases are beginning to circulate and you have some time in advance to think this through, that's the way you dissect it. You try to think of specific concrete examples and then just simply illustrate it so you're giving variations on the theme that you want to get. Is that clear? And I don't think it's the easiest thing in the world to do, but I think the more you do it, your brain will start, like exercise, your brain will start thinking more in that way. So it'll be disciplined to think that way, rather than this kind of the sloppy and ineffective cross-examinations that are normally a part of debate tournaments. Okay, other questions or thoughts or anything? I'll turn it back over to you, and what do you want to have us do here?
Okay, I think what we're going to do now is have someone